fields. But now that was back when they were producing 50 or 70 bushel to the acre. You get up into this part of Arkansas, which there's about 5 counties up here in northeast Arkansas that produce as much rice as the rest of the state combined, and Arkansas produces more rice than anywhere else in the United States. But there's some of these fields up here now that'll produce 175 to 225 bushels to the acre.
Wow.
So if you take, and you used to have a 10% spillage, and I'm not punching an adding machine right here to get the exact figures, but if you used to have to spill 10% of your crop and you're harvesting 50 or 75 bushel to the acre, and you're only spilling 2% or 3% now, but you're at 225 bushel to the acre, you still have a lot of food on the ground.
Yeah, seems
so
like
it's not the food. But now, one thing I did see change over the years, rice varieties you planted earlier and earlier, and you harvested earlier. When I first started guiding, there were times that entire rice fields along the riverbanks would get submerged by floodwaters, and you could go boat into a thicket and stand on the edge of the thicket and shoot over a 150-acre field with the heads of rice sticking out just barely above the water. Now, and it's legal because it hadn't been knocked down, anything else. But when you found where those birds were coming in, you had a hot spot. But that's the same thing. They're going for the food, but it has to be available for them. And now when you harvest so early, a lot of that grain, especially in south central Arkansas and in North Louisiana, that grain that's harvested so early lays on the ground. It gets a lot of dew, maybe a few rains on it, and it sprouts. Once that seed sprouts, it becomes goose food for snow geese, not duck food.
Right.
Now, and so us harvesting later up here still gives us a good advantage that you're going to have more fresh grain on. In fact, one of the things that shocked me the most, we had a field, an area, there was 3,000 acre farm that we had at least enough control of that we managed the hunting on it, and had several big fields down in that area with pits in them. And the farmer had gone in ahead of duck season and burnt the fields off. And I like to have had a heart attack thinking he had popped all the grain or burned it up and whatever. We went out and looked, and after it was burnt and dry, you could move the ashes back, and the grain was still there. Now, it was probably rendered to where it wouldn't sprout, and because of the heat, and if that's the case, it made more duck food. Now, burning rice fields has become a commonplace up in this area, but it still comes back to the same thing. The hardest part is for someone coming in to find an outfitter that has enough land to be able to manage it, have places for the birds to rest, and not have to overshoot his land. And those are the people that consistently produce, because a successful outfitter, one thing we found, you have to be consistent. And if you're consistent on people having opportunities to shoot their guns at ducks, then you'll be a successful outfitter. But to do that, you have to have enough property, enough real estate to move those hunters around on where the birds want to be at the time.
It's great to have Inglis. It's great to have a guest on that you really don't have to ask any questions.
No, I'm sitting here trying to figure out why in the world I don't know what to ask you, but I'm going to say one thing, Charles. Wow, incredible. I've never had the opportunity to hunt Arkansas. So many stories. Good friends of mine from here in South Carolina compete every year in the World Championship over there in Stuttgart for duck calling and goose calling and everything else. A mutual friend of mine in Stevens just returned home today from Arkansas. He was there for 4 days. He enjoyed 2 days of duck hunting and 1 day of snow and speckled belly, I think he hunted. Didn't do well with those. He said it was a lot of work, and he actually got out with the guide and put out 900 decoys, 4 vortex machines, 3 wind ducks, wind geese, all kinds of crazy stuff. It sounded like a lot of work.
Big wind socks.
But the one thing
that is a lot of work when you're putting out a snow goose spread.
Oh, it's huge work. I can remember doing it vividly, and I can tell you it is a lot of work. And at the end of the day, when you have 100 snow geese on the back of a trailer, you say, "What are we going to do with 100 snow geese?"
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and somebody's got to clean them.
Somebody's got to do something with those.
Somebody's got to clean them.
Yeah.
But the one thing he said today when I talked to him, next year they're going to Kansas, and I'm just saying, I'm not. We've touched on the fact that Arkansas is, seen a decline, but he did say they're going to Kansas next year. And then one other thing I'm going to touch on, I'm going to turn it back over to Stephen, but you were talking about getting your hunters to hold and wait let them land, and then taking that opportunity to get a better group of the flock to start dropping in. I'm actually leaving as soon as we get done with this podcast. I'm leaving to head to North Carolina to hunt with a guide up there for 2 days, and we'll hunt open water diver ducks out in the Currituck Sound there. And I was there recently with some friends of mine who are new to duck hunting. And I'll tell you what, I had to reach up and hold one of my buddies. He's a charter guide, fishing guide. I had to reach up and hold his back to keep him from standing up. He wanted to shoot so bad at the first group that came in of bluebills. And I said, dude, just let them make one more circle around. I promise you, if they're going to come in, it'll be a lot easier to kill them than trying to shoot them things flying wide open, flying by.
If you can hit a diver passing by at full speed, you're good.
Exactly.
Now, anybody should be able to hit them when they're just fluttering in if you're not pot shooting, just hit the whole flock. But and that's where that hammer time comes from. When you think about them and their wings are cupped and their feet are down, now that's when it's hammer time. That they're committed. You're picking one bird out. You're shooting them on the float coming in. But if you'll let them land and then take the latter part of the flock, if you don't hit what's there, you're going to be able to hit the rest of them as they're leaving the hole.
Yeah, it takes a lot of energy for them to reverse course and get out of there, right? I mean, it's pretty easy to dive in, but reversing course and getting out of there takes a lot more time and gives you a lot more time as a hunter to get them on the way out. Now, you mentioned it. You brought it up. So I'm going to follow up on it. I introduced you as Charles Hammertime Snapp. Tell me where that came from.
Well, I mean, it's a common term around here about it being hammer time, not as it relates to me, but when those birds are really flocking in those holes and they've got those wings cupped and those feet down, I mean, that's hammer time. That's when you get after them and you really experience green timber hunting at its prime in Arkansas. Same thing happens in a rice field. They just come in at a little bit more lower approach than fluttering down right on top of you. But the actual tagline with me as hammer time started. My wife heard people talking, including myself, about it's hammer time. And when they would be in the hole and the birds would be coming in, people would say, take them, shoot them, kill them, whatever. I just always said hammer time. And so she had a hat made, one of her guide service hats, but had the back of it monogrammed with hammer time on it. And there was a TV show that was filming with us. And boy, I can see the guy right now, but he, I believe it was for Express Boats. They were one of my early sponsors. And he picked up on the back of that hat on one shot when those birds were coming in. And after that, it stuck. And it stuck well enough. We actually changed the name of the guide service to Hammertime Guide Service.
Yeah, I mean, from the time I can remember, you always said it. And I got to tell you, I believe it was the last time I hunted with you, we were hunting in a rice field. And if I'd have known it was the last time, I think I'd have given you a bigger hug than I did. But it was one of those days that you don't want to have in Arkansas. It was a nasty rainy day, which is, in contrast to pretty much what you want here, right? I mean, here you always want a nasty rainy day, primarily because that keeps the ducks off of the ocean. They won't raft up in big rafts on the ocean. When it's nasty and rainy here, they come inshore. But in Arkansas, you traditionally wanted a sort of a sunny day. I mean, cold is fine, but sunny. And the day we had was exactly opposite of that. It was the nastiest, rainy, sleety, snowy, rain going sideways, wind blowing 30 or 40 miles an hour. It was nasty and cold. And the very last volley of birds we had looked completely different than anything I'd ever seen in Arkansas. They came by at 70 miles an hour and had white bodies and a darker head, and I immediately recognized them as Canvasbacks. And
which is rare around here.
Which is completely rare in Arkansas. In all the ducks that I had ever killed in Arkansas, I had never even seen a Canvasback, much less shot them. And they came in they made a second round and came in perfect and pitched, and we killed all four of them. I think it was three drakes and a hen, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, it was the very last hunt that I had with you. And I'll never forget it because of those four Canvasbacks that we killed, because it was the most unusual of shooting in Arkansas.
Yeah, you don't see many of those. Now, once in a while, you'd get the divers in.
Yeah.
But the cans, they were rare.
Very rare. Very rare. All right, so we've talked a lot about hunting. We talked a lot about your past. I want to get to the present because that's as big of a part of your life as the hunting part, and is. So I should have started the podcast with calling you Mayor.
That's right.
Right. Tell me how you got into the political world.
The odd thing is, when I Googled you to go look up at all your incredible history in duck hunting, do you know the first thing that comes up now when you Google your name?
No,
Mayor.
I don't.
Mayor. City of Walnut Ridge is the very first thing that comes up. I'm like, where's all the duck hunting stuff?
Yeah. Well, it's not all gone. Actually, talking about the heartbeat and duck mate, I had a text yesterday from a old friend in Northwest Arkansas, and he was watching the Outdoor Channel, and Ducks Unlimited had a show on there, and he said they're telling the story about Charles Hammertime Snapp, talking about it's all about the heartbeat. Don't go for just the duck meat. And, so not it's still out there a little, but yeah, most of them know me as Mayor around Northeast Arkansas and Arkansas now, for that matter. But
that's just amazing to me. I hope you don't take offense to that. I don't mean it to be
I don't.
offensive
I don't.
at all.
And now look, I'm cut my beard short. It's not like it used to be. I still have the beard. I still have the ponytail, and what hair is left, anyways. But it's same person, just a different profession now.
If my kids today asked me who Charles Snapp was, other than all of the great descriptors I would give them, if a physical description, I would say a cross between Kenny Rogers and Santa Claus.
I'll take that as a compliment from both people.
Please do.
Yeah.
Please do. But that's how I see in my mind, in my mind's eye. That's how I see Charles Snapp. Always be my friend, but your physical appearance, cross between Kenny Rogers and Santa Claus, and I'll never forget you as that. So if you look better now, good for you, but I'm never going to forget you as that cross.
Well, I don't know about better, but older for sure. But you know,